A warm welcome to everyone from Excel and Excel. Hope you all are safe and doing well. Myself, Erlinda, and this is Nidhi. Thank you all for enjoying in this event. Excel and Excel welcomes you all.
For those who do not know about Excel and Excel, here's a quick introduction. We are a data analytics firm using modern technology to resolve problems relating to data and technology. We provide end-to-end services in the field of data analytics and data visualization. Our core services include analytics, consulting, and training. As you all know, we conduct the popular talk show EIE Fresh Talk on our YouTube channel, where we host great leaders from India and abroad to speak on variety of topics ranging from analytics to finance and finance to financial modeling. We'd also like to highlight that we had registrations from over 100 plus countries worldwide for this event. Let me give you a gist of a few of our past events. 7 Excel features that pros to be more efficient by Sumit Bansal. 5 must-have charts in any finance person toolbox by Mr. Chandu. Spreadsheet and forensic a relation by C.A. Saran Kumar. Data visualization in MS Excel tips and tricks by Jordan Goldmuir. We are happy to share our website EIE Fresh Talk by Excel and Excel has been selected as one of the top 5 Excel podcasts on web by feedspot.com. At this moment, we are happy to have with us a well-recognized speaker, Mr. Bob. We welcome you, sir. Erlinda will be giving a quick introduction about the speaker.
Mr. Bob was voted an MVP Most Valuable Professional by Microsoft each year from 1993 to 2018, that's 25 good years, for his contributions to various online forums about Excel and is known worldwide for his contributions in Excel. He has been a beta tester for new versions of Excel since version 1.5 and was asked by Microsoft for his input for newer versions of Excel. He has been using Excel since version 0.99. He worked a contributing editor to Microsoft Excel for many years. He has had more than 300 articles published on subjects ranging from beginner to advanced macros and on tips, shortcuts, and general techniques using virtually all aspects of Excel. He has authored books namely This Isn't Excel, It's Magic, Excel Outside the Box, and Excel Preschool, finally understanding what Excel is all about. Currently, Mr. Umlas leads a 12-hour class in Excel called Excel in Depth and a 6-hour class on VBA. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. It's really
My
a pleasure
pleasure.
to have you on our platform here.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir. Thank you for
Okay,
accepting our invite, and we are glad to have you.
thank you very much. So you can see my screen? Yes? Okay, I'm assuming you can see my screen. Let me just minimize this window. Okay, so again, my name is Bob Umlas, and a lot of the tips from this session are going to be from this book. This isn't Excel, it's Magic. And if you type my last name, Umlas, into Amazon.com, you'll see my other books. And my email address is here, bobumlas@hotmail.com. And anytime you want to um, ask me any kind of question on Excel, feel free to email me a question. Here's a picture of my car and my license plate. I love having that car. And let's dig in right away with some tips. One thing that not too many people know I've discovered is something about zooming. When I go to view zoom, and if I go down to, let's say 40%, nothing special happens except this gets nice and small. Let me make that 40%. And I have some named ranges on here. One of them is called welcome, and it's just that range name. Another one is called 2, and that's just further down. And another range name called tips Excel. And then finally a range name called tips and tricks. Nothing special. But if I go back to the zoom window and go to 39% or less, you see all these range names just show up. So if I were to invent a new range name like here, and I call it demo, and I type the word demo here to name it, you'll see the word demo just show up. So anytime you want to see a structure of your workbook, you can just zoom it down to 39%, the names range just showed up. If the name happens to be 1 cell long, you won't see it. So it has to be 2 or more cells. Okay, there's going to be kind of a fast-paced thing because I have a lot to show you. I'm going to have on this sheet, I have a page setup I want to show you. That is nothing special except that you can see it's landscape. It has a header, it has row and column heading showing, and it has the date and time in New York. It's 7:30 a.m. for me. And on this next tab, it looks very similar, but there's no page setup. And if I preview this, you'll see that it's portrait and no header and footer. Supposing I like this page setup and I want to use it on other sheets. So I'm holding down the control key and I'm clicking on this tab, which puts them in something called group mode. You can see the word group at the very top. Group mode means whatever I do to one will be done to all those in a group, including just making a selection. I arbitrarily selected that. Notice that's selected. And if I select this and come back, that's selected. So since everything I do in one is done on all in the group, from here I'm going to visit the page layout tab and go to this dialog launcher, page setup. Click on this and click OK. And I've just copied the page setup. So over here, I'm going to ungroup the sheets and then look at this one that had no page setup before. And there it is, landscape, header and footer, row and column heading showing. You could do that to all those sheets in the workbook. This one has nothing to mention now, except notice that it has the word Bob in the tab name, and we'll look at it later. I'll come back to that. It'll make sense later. And here's a tab called Totals. It's just a bunch of numbers, and every so often I have a subtotal with using the sum function. And then more numbers in the subtotal, and that goes down to row 134 or 133. What if I want the grand total? What I have seen many times, I see people who enter a formula such as this, which works. It's B133, which is the cell here, plus B120, which is that one. And you've searched through and looked for everywhere there's a subtotal and just add them up. So 6,000 is the total. That works fine. And in real life, I've actually seen this span 3 lines in the formula bar. So that's subject to errors. Less error prone is this one, where I'm taking the SUMIF function. If the range, the syntax is the range, a criteria, and what I'm summing up. So if A1 to A133, wherever it has the word subtotal, give me B1 to B133. So that's certainly less error prone. There's another one called SUMPRODUCT. SUMPRODUCT takes a list of arrays, and all these arrays need to be numeric. So this one is obviously numeric, but here I'm saying A1 to A133 equals subtotal. And if I were to calculate that by using the F9, you'll see it's a bunch of trues and falses. And trues and falses are not numeric. So there's a function called n, and n changes true to 1 and false to 0. So now I have a numeric array. I'll do that again. It's a bunch of 1s and 0s. And the sum product says multiply these together, these 2 arrays, and then add them up. So of course I get the 6,000 again. Another cool way is this. It's just pretty much the same as the first one, but it's so easy to do because if I click on this and do Alt equals, Excel will find all the functions in there, all these subtotals in there. The easiest is this one, which is a little not intuitive. Just add them all up and divide by 2. And the way that works is because, let me go back to the top for a moment. These numbers up to here do total 456. That's what this number is saying. So I have 456 in all these numbers, and I have 456 as the total. Then I have all these, which total 720, because that's what this number is saying. So I have 720 in there twice. So everything's in there twice. So just add them all up and divide by 2. Okay. Here's a task. I'm going to give you 4 solutions to this. What I'm trying to do is, in this range, get rid of everything before the colon, including the colon, and including the space. So by a formula, what I would do, and let me widen this up a bit. The formula approach is first I have to find that colon equals find. I'm finding the colon in that cell. And that gives me the position. It's in position 6. Knowing that's in position 6, I can take the middle part of that, the middle of A3, for the position 6. Well, that's the colon. I want the space after that, which is +1, and I want the character after that, so it's +2. And an arbitrarily large amount at the end. And there's the do this. And if I fill this all the way down, that works fine. What I have to do, though, of course, is copy and paste this on top of that because I want to remove everything. So I can't cut and paste, but I can do this. So I right mouse click on the border, just drag that to here. I'm doing a right mouse drag. When I let go, I get some options. Copy here as values only. And there it is. And now I can just get rid of these because that solves the problem. I'm going to undo all that because I want to show you the other approaches. There's text to columns. I'm going to click on this, go to the data tab, and I go to text to columns. And it is delimited. It's delimited by a colon. So just type a colon in here. And then click finish. And there it is. Now, this starts with a leading space, however. So I need another helper column that equals the middle of this, starting at the second position, and a large thing at the end. Double click this, and I have the solution. Again, I have to drag this with the right border to here, copy as values only, and then I can get rid of these. And I'm done. I'm going to undo everything. Flash fill. Flash fill is a great thing. In case you don't know it, it's on the data tab. There is a flash fill right here. It's also on the home tab. There's this fill and flash fill. Both of them are also Control E. Flash fill allows you to type what you want. No formula. Do this. And with a period. And let Excel recognize it. I'm going to do Control E, and look at that. It figured it out. Undo. And I'm going to have to copy that and paste it onto column A and then get rid of column B. My favorite is this one, though, because I don't have to, I'm finished when I'm done with this. Replace. I'm going to bring up the replace, find and replace, which is Control H, or I can do find and select and go to replace. And what I'm finding is I don't want to find the colon. I want to find everything. It's an asterisk wildcard and a colon and a space. So everything up until the colon and a space, and replace it with nothing. Click replace all, and I'm done. Okay, moving along. An amazing formula. This data comes from, this slicer comes from this stuff. I have a service, whatever these mean. I have a city, an amount, and a date. I don't really use the date at all. So service, city, and amount. I took this, which happens to be a table, and I made a slicer out of it. Then I cut the slicer and pasted it here. And now all these values are affected by the slicer. Actually, I clicked on Atlanta. If I go back to this, you'll see only Atlanta is showing. And if I click on Miami, come back here, only Miami is showing. And if I multi-click, control that, Amsterdam and Miami, that's what you see here. So what formulas in here support that? Well, the grand total of everything is kind of easy. This is called formula text, so you can see the formula. It's a subtotal 109, which means show me all the items that are not filtered, and supporting data column C. So that was kind of easy. And this one is the total of the 5 ones above. So, and the value error here is on purpose. You'll see that in a moment. It's a first attempt at trying to get a further slice into that. I'm only interested in, let's say, ES. So the formula here is I'm using a sum product. Sum product, again, requires numeric arrays. So the last one is easy. that the n, okay, taking trues and falses, changing them to ones and zeros, the supporting data, which is the next tab, I want column A to be equal to A5. So in this case, I'm just using ES as an example. And I want to get just this first slice. I only want the ones that are showing, because this would be all of them. The ones that are showing, the problem with this is this part of it is just one value. If I do Control F9, I'm sorry, if I do F9, you see that that's the answer. But this is a lot of values. Let's get that per in at the end. And they must balance. This one against all those, not the same size. So that doesn't work, which is why you get the value error. But how can I make it so that I can go to get a subtotal that works? Well, I'm going to copy this here because it's just a formula text. So I'm taking the sum product. So that's right. I'm again using the subtotal. I'm still 109, but I'm putting in an offset formula in here. Let's take a look at it in reality. So the offset formula, starting offset of C1, and C1, if we take a quick look, is just the title, the word amount. So I'm offsetting from C1. And the sequence, which is one of the newest functions, sequence of 122, gives me the numbers 1 through 122. So if I just highlight this and do F9, it's just the numbers 1 through 122. Offset of C1 for that gives me C2 through C123. And the reason I used 122 is because that's what this goes down to, row 123. So when I use the offset of that and I take the subtotal, this part of it, let's see if I get this right, I get all the numbers in there. But now it's a matching number of items. And finally, this part, of course, is the ones and zeros that we saw. Oops. Well, that works. So that works. This one, instead of using 122, I used the same formula, but instead of the 122, I'm using count A of all of column A minus 1. So there's 123 items in column A. That minus 1 is 122. It's the same thing. That there's more in case I add more data, it works. And if you don't happen to have the functions available, you can use the row function, row of 1 to 122. And the row of 1 to 122 also comes out with, oops, this one, the numbers 1 to 122. Very powerful formula. Okay, moving along. There's some filter magic. So using the new filter function, here's a data set. It's a table. The name of the table is table 3. Nothing's particular. And if I wanted to filter the table so that I only see a region of Southwest and a state of Utah, or UT, again, I'm in the US, I don't know cities in India, but this was just copied and pasted. There's nothing special about the titles. So the function actually is in M6, and I'm doing a filter of table 3, where the region equals M2, that's Southwest, times the state equals N2, which is UT. And you can see, of course, I just get Southwest and UT. I multiply them when I want an AND condition. If I wanted or Southwest or Utah, then I would do a plus sign. But there's a powerful use of filter. Then I learned from, I don't know if you know the name Leila Garani, she's an MVP, that if you don't want to get all these columns, maybe you only want 4 of them, the region, the state, the manager, and the ship date. And these dates are month, day, year. Notice the formula in here is a filter of the filter. So this inside filter gives us the same thing as we just looked at, this range down here. But I'm filtering that by this 1, 0, 1, 0, etc., which gives me a further filter of which columns I want to use. So wherever there's a 1, I will use it. Where there's a 0, I won't. So I'm getting every other column from the beginning. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 is, let's go back here, region, state, account manager, ship date. Very powerful. So I thank Layla for that, but then I added to this on my own, saying, what if that's not the order I want them in? This is, there's no difference here. Oh yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Okay, I want them in a different order. So I pass that same function, the filter of the filter, into a sort by feature. And I'm sorting them in order. There's 4 columns, and the order I want is 2, 1, 4, 3. It was region, state, account manager, ship date. Matter of fact, if I make this 1 a 4 and make that 4 a 1, as soon as I hit enter, you'll see everything switch. The titles don't switch because that was just kind of hand put in, but the state and the account manager swapped. So this is the account manager and so on. Very powerful. I came up with this kind of cute thing. I have whatever I have in here is reversed in here. We'll look at that in a moment. And it's filled down. So how do you reverse it? Well, lots of ways. First, I want to examine what this is. The sequence of, if I do a sequence of 5, I get the numbers 1 through 5. This is the reverse. And I do that by the sequence of 5. That's how many rows? 1 column. Oops, let's go back here. 5, comma, 1 column. The start is 5 and the step is -1. Then I get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But I don't want it to be just 5. I'm using the length of A1. Or if I did length of A2, let's try A2. It says very cool. And do length of A2. That also reverses them. So using this inside here, I have the mid of A1 for that. That gives me 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the mid of A1, 5, 1 is the O. And then the 4, 1 is the L. I'm backwards. So if I do all this and hit the F9 key, I get that in here, but I don't want it this way. And the semicolon means that it's a new row. So I'm doing a text join. Text join says the delimiter, I'm using as a delimiter, nothing. Ignore empty text. Well, I know it's not going to be empty, although it might be if there's a space in there. That's not empty. Anyway, and then the array. And that just works just fine. Here's one that's very simple, but it's kind of cute. If I enter a name here and item 4, when I entered the name, you notice that this number 5 showed up. As soon as I hit enter here, number 6 shows up. Kind of cute. What I have in cell A1 is a sequence. The count A of column B, which is how many things are in column B, and then a period. So as I type in here, I get a new number. Here I'm going to use a live demo. Just want to make sure I'm in the same folder about arranging all. When I do arrange sheets, this opens up. Oh, I don't know if you would see this. You know what? I will just talk it through this. Hold on. I'm trying to close this. Oh, okay. If I have many windows open, let's try this. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't on my computer only. So I'm going to go to View, New Window, View, New Window, view, new window. I now have 4 of these. And if I go to the view and arrange all, and I'll do windows of the active workbook, I have these 4 open. When I do that, obviously the one on the top left is the one that was active. But let's say I'm going to change these. Here I'm going to go back to that. And then here I'm going to look at this tab. And here I'll look at, let's say, a blank. I just added a sheet. So what's the order of this? Supposing I want this to be top left. So we'll call this number 1. And I want this to be next, 2. And I want this to be next, 3. And I want this to be next, 4. How do I make this order? I just click on each window in the reverse order. So I'm just clicking here, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I can do arrange all, windows of active workbook, and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, which I think is kind of cool. So let me close these because I only need 1. Oops, I lost my Excel. Let me come back to it. I have to reshare that. Okay, let's move on. Here's a cool thing also. Here I have I want to make a 3x3 grid of integers that don't repeat. So every time I recalculate this, let's recalculate it this way. Enter. Oh, don't tell me. Okay, go back here, enter. It's not allowing me to enter. There we go. Every time I do it, I get a new rearrangement of this. How that was done was I first started off with just a sequence of 9, gave me 9 numbers, and then I did a round array of 9. And all I really need to do is take this, sort it by this. And that's the sort by function. So I'm sorting the sequence of 1 to 9 by a random array. And then I'm taking the index of that. Wasn't sure this is going to work, but it did. And the index of that is the 3x3 array. Sequence 3, 3. If I, oh dear. Well, this comes out to be a 3x3 array. Okay, let me move on. Here's another one that we saw before with 1, 1, 1, 1, but this is all 2s. And again, we'll look at that later. On this one, I have data in here. I have some data down here. And what if I wanted to increase this by a constant amount so that it reaches this? Well, the constant amount happens to be in this formula, the difference between C15 and C1 divided by the number of rows in between. So if I take this and move it back up to here, you'll see that if I add 143.666 to this, it will reach 554. But I don't want to have to remember how to do this, and I don't have to because Excel does it automatically. If I make that selection, and on the Home tab, I go to Fill Series, Excel knows how to fill it. Each one will take that number. And if I were to bring this back up, and I select these two, and I go to Fill Series, that's the same number. Okay, this one is incredibly powerful and came to me in a dream. I've been using Excel since version 0.99, and long before VBA, there was something called XLM, which is a macro language. And in the macro language, there's a function called files, which is not a valid function now, equals files. Oops, something happened. I don't know. Hold on, I'll be back. Sorry. Am I still here? I think I am. Don't know what happened here. I'm assuming you can still hear me. Get rid of that. Okay. So there's a function called files, which returns all the files in the directory. I named it FL. And FL, which we'll look at in a moment, when I get rid of that leading apostrophe and hit enter, I get all the files in the current directory. If I were to change directories, and let's go up a level, I go to one called data. I have lots of files in here. I don't cancel, I just change directories. So if I re-enter this, I get a whole bunch more files. It's all the files in the current directory, which is pretty powerful. So I'm going to put the quote back. And let's look at the name manager. And files, ignore the ref errors, FL, is the transpose of files, open close parentheses. Because if I didn't transpose it, it would go across the sheet horizontally. So that's very powerful. Look at this one, FLX, which is in column B. It's a transpose of files, but I gave the files a filter, star.xl star. So I don't know if you noticed, let's get rid of this again, that I have things that are here that are not Excel files. There's a doc, and there's a .ink, whatever that is. If I take that leading quote off this, I get only Excel files. Notice that this is not in here. Okay, let's get rid of that. Tab names. Tab names is this definition. I will unhide. You can see all the definitions. There's another function in Excel called get.workbook1, and that gives all the tab names, but it also gives it with the name of the workbook, which I don't want. And the name of the workbook has a right bracket in it. So this would say master tnt.xlsm, all in the square brackets. And then in this particular tab would be files at etc. So if I get rid of this leading quote and hit enter, I get all the tab names. And here's the one that says files etc. If anybody wants this file, let me know. Send me an email, bobumlas@hotmail.com, and I will send you the file. Okay, let's move along. This one is, I like this one because Microsoft can no longer explain it. Whoever created this, created it, is no longer with the company, I guess. There's something called the camera tool, which I have in my quick access toolbar. If you don't have it, you can just right mouse click, do customize quick access toolbar. You have to go to all commands and then find camera, which is in here. When I get to all commands, scroll down to camera someplace. This is all commands. Okay. And then in here somewhere is camera, but I already moved it over to this on the right. There's camera. And what camera does is it takes a picture. So if I click on this and click the camera tool and then click over here, that's a picture. That's a picture of E11 to G14. What's interesting is and if I change the color of this to orange, of course it changes in that because it's like a mirror. If I bring this closer, if I bring it into the range, you can see that A1 to F16 is inside or underneath this block. So it's showing the corners of this. And as I get closer, you see that 4 show up. If I keep getting closer, I get more and more images of like mirroring effect. And I think that's kind of cool. But what's really cool for me is if I change this number 4 to a 5, let's say, you'll see that the old 4s are still present. If I change it to a 6, then a 7, then an 8, the mirroring is like behind itself. Where is this 6 actually being stored? Where is this 5? I don't know how useful this is, but I think it's cool. All right, moving along. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I did not, but if you have any questions about anything as I'm going along, put it in the chat, and our hosts will read me the ones that they feel are good questions to address. All right, here I have a total of January. My next column is the percent of the quarter total. His quarter, these are all the sum of the months in that quarter. If I want to put totals here and here and here and here, notice the pattern is broken. You know, if I just drag this to the right, it's not going to work. I don't want totals of the percent of the quarter. I only want them every other cell for a beginning, and I can make that selection first and then drag out to the right. And it's great for these, but since the pattern was broken, it was every other column, that's not what I want. So I'm going to undo that. What I want is, well, the way to get it is I can come out to the quarter total because that works. And then again from here, because there's a new pattern now, from here to the end is how it just works out fine. Because I started with a new pattern of 7 cells, which is on, off, on, off, on, off, on, and then again on, off, on, off. That's the pattern. Changing row height. Here I have a no big deal thing. It only goes down to row 52, but I have the departments: accounting, personnel, and IS department. And what I really want to do is widen the row whenever I get a department change. Now, in this case, it's simple. I have 2 rows to widen, but let's say this goes down to row 5000. So if I were to print preview this, you'll notice it's just one long block. And I want it to look like there's a space in there. I don't want to insert a row here. I want to make that row height bigger. Well, I could enter a formula to do that. When I do a go-to in the formula and I go to special, if I click on formulas or constants, I have 4 different types of formulas or constants I can use: numbers, text, logicals, and errors. Logical is like true, false. Errors is any kind of error, like divide by 0, whatever. So I'm going to arbitrarily pick 2. I'll pick the first 2, numbers and text, just to make the distinction. And I can put in a formula here that says if the cell to the left and above is not equal to the cell to the left, if it's not equal, I'm going to put in the 1, that's number. Otherwise, I put in a X, that's text. I'm going to fill this down. Double click. Notice that when I get a department change, I have a 1. I can now go to special. These are all formulas, and I'm only interested in the numbers. I don't have to deselect logicals and errors because I know there aren't any because I made up this formula. Click OK, and all the ones are selected. And then I can go to, on the Home tab, Format, Row Height, and let's say double it to about double, 31. Then I can get rid of column B. And now if I look at print preview, it looks fine. Double spacing. Here I have lots of stuff from 1 to row 850. Not very big, but it's big enough. Supposing in this type, what I really want to do is insert a row, physically put a row here, and then physically put a row here, all the way down to row 850 or to row 20,000. That would take a really long time. And even if I wrote a macro to do that, it would take a really long time. Although a little less than doing it manually. I came up with a way that I can do this in 7 seconds or less, but that would not be instructive. So let me show you how you can do it. I'm going to number these. In order to number these, I see a lot of people typing a 1 and typing a 2, and then filling this down all the way down to the bottom with the fill handle. You don't need to do the 1 and the 2. You can just do the 1. But if I just do the 1 and drag it down, I'm going to just get 1s all the way down. But if I make that selection And watch, that works fine. So with just one and another column, I can double click the fill handle. They're now numbered 1 to 850. I'm going to copy it, Control C, Control down arrow takes me to the bottom, down one more cell and paste. I now have another set of numbers 1 to 850. Next to this number 1 is nothing. Next to the number 1 above is lots of stuff 1. Next to this number 2 is nothing, etc. So all I need to do is sort by this column, and I am done, aside from getting rid of this column. I don't need it anymore. The last cell now is here. Here's another third one, another Bob 3333, and now we'll look at that. Here I have a function that has an apostrophe in front of it, so it's not working, it's not effective yet. And I'm doing a sum of, let's click away from it, the sum of quote asterisk Bob quote asterisk exclamation A1 to B2. So all of these were A1 to B2. And I come back here, and this says, give me all the sheets that have a Bob in the title, in the name of the sheet. I want to add up A1 to B2. If I take this away, the leading quote, and enter it, not only does it give me the answer, but it expanded it to what it found. Bob later 1, 4 later Bob, and another Bob. So name your tabs wisely. I'm sure you all know about the Format Painter, and you know that if you double click it, and I put my Format Painter into the QAT, if I double click it, I can then do this because it's staying alive. To get rid of it, I can either hit the Escape key or click on the Format Painter again. But did you know that you can use the Format Painter on objects? So I'm going to take this object, click on the Format Painter, click on this arrow, boom. Fill handle, you can delete using the fill handle. Supposing I didn't want this last row. I'm clicking on that range, and if I use the shift with the fill handle, as I drag it up, notice it changes shape. I drag it up, it'll get rid of that. Or if I didn't want many of these rows, it's cleared. All right, here's something that I think is terrific. I have it in most of my relatively large workbooks. A name called Z. To define it, I go to cell A1. Look at the name manager and see what's so special about Z. Now, the use of the actual Z doesn't matter. You can call it W or X or A or give it a longer name, but the shorter the better for its purpose. So in the name manager, Z is A1 to Z100. Relative. So if I must be in A1 to do that. If I was in B2 and I looked, Z is B2 to AA101. So when you define it, be in A1, you define it to be A1 to Z100, but you start it off with the leading exclamation mark. If I took off the exclamation mark, when I hit enter or close, it would append the name of the tab. So it would only be valid for MISC1. And I want it to be everywhere. So I just leave off the sheet name, put on an exclamation mark. So if I now go to Z, it just lights up A1 through Z100. Why is that special? Well, in here, it's I8 through whatever that is. If I go to Z from here, come on, go to Z from here, it has the effect of bringing it to the top left. No, go to Z. Okay, it brings it to the top left of the screen. Here's some more stuff. I don't see all of it, I see some of it. So I want to go to Z, click OK, and it brings it to the top left of the screen, which I think is great. Okay, Control Home. By the way, if you're ever entering large numbers, don't type the large number. Let's say I wanted to enter a trillion. which has 12 zeros. I might miscount them, but I can do 1E12. Oops, 1E12. And that will enter a trillion. If I format this as integer, or if it's already pre-formatted, if I go here and number with no decimal places, okay, there it is. It's a trillion. So type in 1E6 to get a million, 1E9 to get a billion, etc. Okay, here I have A1 through E1 merged, A2 to E2, A3 to E3, all the way down to row 100. In 101, I have individual cells, but I have that. How did I do that without it just taking a long time? And I'll show it here. I'll take these. Let's say I want to merge these. So G3 to L3 and G4 to L4. On the home table, you would normally do merge and center. There's a drop down. And one of them is merge across. And that does exactly what I'm saying here. Done. This one's kind of fun. What happened to my even row numbers? Where's row 2? Row 3? Well, to do that, to make that happen, I believe is in column E, no F, there it is. In column I, look at the size of the font. It's 100. I'm going to do this on a brand new sheet so you can see how it was done. Insert worksheet. So here's a brand new worksheet. I don't have to go to I did it kind of arbitrarily. I'll start in F, and I'm just going to put this as a size of 100. And you can see what happens. It gets much bigger. And then I'm dragging on A1 and, F1 and F2, and I'm going to drag the fill handle down pretty far. So every other row has a font size of 100. I now select everything, and I resize this. Let's take the row 2 and you see what happens. When I drag this down to be the same size as row 1, look at what's happening to the 2. It's disappearing. And when I let go, row numbers disappeared. All right. For those of you who use VBA, sometimes if you're writing a true application for somebody else and you want to let the user know that there's something happening, so you put a message in the status bar saying please wait or something like that. Status bar being down here where it often says ready. Not sure why it says nothing here. Let me just clear the status bar. Okay, it is clear. It often says ready down here. Now it's not. But the message is real small. It's not easy to see. So I came up with this. I'm clicking on wait. And look at you can't miss that. Please wait. And after the procedure is over, it disappears. I created that ribbon. And if I look at the macro in here and edit it, when I click on that button, this just says in 5 seconds, go to wait no longer. Okay. Now that's not how you would normally do it. You would put this at the end of your macro that's running. So I'm making sure I'm in the correct directory, and I open a ribbon file, which has the words, please wait in that ribbon file. And in 5 seconds, it runs this, or at the end of the macro, it would just close the ribbon file. That's all there is to it. I also have that ribbon so that if there was a macro error, if I click on any one of these, it would also close the workbook. Just an idea. Okay, some tricks with mailing labels. Here I have a bunch of mailing labels, John Jones, and then John Jones's address, and John Jones's city, state, and zip, etc. Jane Addams, Frank Edwin, and Tina Spencer. And I want to sort these sections by last name. As I want Jane Addams first, and then Frank Edwin, then John Jones, and Tina. How in the world would you do that? Obviously, if I sort this now, I'm going to get a big mess. Data sort junk. So I'm going to undo that. Well, I came up with this. I'm going to insert a row at the top. That's Control+. And then I can put in a formula here, which says if the cell above and to the left is nothing. Actually, you know what, let me just format this so you can see it better while I'm doing it. Okay. If the cell above and to the left is equal to nothing, then I know I have a new group of text here. I'm going to pick up John Jones. If it's not, I'm going to pick up what's in the cell above. So as I fill this down, it's all John Jones, because this one we just looked at. The one below now says that the cell above and to the left, which is John Jones, is nothing, which it isn't. So it picks up the cell above. And if I bring this all the way down, notice I went one extra row. That's part of, it's kind of important. It's ready for sorting. So I can just click on this, data, sort A to Z, and then I can get rid of this. I'm no longer needing it. And I can get rid of row 1 if I want. No longer need that. And task complete. Number 2. Here I have a bunch of names from 1 to 30. And I want to change it to be this sequence. That is the name, then the address, and the city, state, and zip. Then the name, address, city, state, and zip, and so on. So let me get rid of this and move this over. So here I want name 1. I want effectively equals A1. And here I want equals B1. And here I want equals C1. And the next one I want a blank. So if I select these to keep the blank, you're going to see it's not what I want. What happened to name 2 and 3 and 4? It's going up too much. So I can do that. Notice I'm using the fill handle to erase. Instead of doing that, I'm going to do this XA1. It'll make sense in a minute. XA2, I'm sorry, XB1 and XC1. And I'm going to use the fill handle here. Now, since I went down to row 30, I need to go down to row 120 because there's four of those, 4 in an item. Back to 120, and the fill handle works just fine. It knows this pattern well. And then I can go to replace, and replacing an X with an equal. Replace all. Done. Cool, right? Another mailing label. Here I have it in this sequence. And I want to change it to this. So this adds a sample. I did A1, A2, A3, then A5, A6, A7. And if I try that, you know, that's the beginning. Scroll it down, I get pure garbage. So again, I can do that by saying A1. I don't need an X in this place because everything's in A. And here I have A2, and here I have A3. And I have to give it the pattern. So now it's A5, A6, and A7. And the pattern is determined, and the fill handle is smart enough. So it's then 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15. And now I replace an A with equals A. Replace all. Granted, I didn't go down far enough, but you get the point. But here I've done it with using one of the new features called sequence. The index of A, and that, again, I have a leading quote, so it's not working right yet till I get rid of the quote. Sequence of 160 over 4. 160 over 4 because this ends, the pattern ends in row 160. Well, I could have said, instead of 160 over 4, I could have said 40, granted. But in doing that, the sequence function is the number of columns. So when I get rid of the quote, boom, That's really cool. Okay, fill writing down. I have this information, which I want to create it this way. So I'm going to get rid of it and show you how that's done. I could copy and transpose here, or I can even put in a transpose function. But I wanted to show you, again, a similar technique to what we just did in the mailing labels. Here I can do all right, A1, just A1, and drag it out to the right. Notice I have the reference. Bring that up and replace A with equals A, and I have it. What if I wanted it the other way? Supposing I have this, I'm going to copy paste special values here. That's just the values. And I want this to go to reference that. Let's say I don't have this anymore. I want this to go down so that I get this going across. So this says B1. If I go down, of course, I get B2, B3, etc., which is not what I want. And if I try just B1 or even XB1, and then I try XC1, and if I fill this down, that's not going to work. I want a D and E and F. I can't make that happen. But I can do this. I'm going to change this to row R1, C1 notation. Row 1, column 2. That's the first one. When I drag down, notice I get row 1, column 9 at the end, which is here. I can't change an R to equals R because equals R1, C2 is not valid. So I'm going to undo that. What I can do is go to File Options and change it on formulas to the R1C1 reference style. That changes row numbers, column letters to column numbers. I can now do the replace R with equals R, replace all, and we're done. Except I'm going to change it back. File Options again, and on the formulas, turn that off. And it still works. B1, C1, D1, E1, and so on. I'm going to skip this one. Okay, Control 6. I have a bunch of objects here. Control 6, which is what I'm going to do now, not F6, Control 6, is a toggle to show and hide objects. That's that whole tip. Now here's a very silly one. What sea creature is this? Give you a second to think about it. What sea creature does this represent? How about calamari? That's column R-E, calamari. Okay, now you get a sense of my sense of humor. Is there a question in the background? Okay, not yet.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
sir. We have a question. Can we read that
great.
out?
Can I do what? I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, okay. So the first question, kindly explain mirroring concept again.
Explain what concept, I'm sorry.
Mirroring concept again.
I'm missing a word.
Mirroring, sir. Mirroring concept.
I'm sorry, I don't get it. I can't hear you.
Hi, Bob. They are asking
Hi.
you to repeat on mirroring concept. I think something on
Oh,
mirroring you
mirror.
have covered. Yeah.
The mirroring, the camera tool? Are you saying mirroring?
Mirror.
That
Yes,
one,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So that was with the camera tool. So let me get back to that. I have a personal which shows select sheet, and I can look at camera. Oh, mirror. Okay. Boom. Okay. So let's do it from the scratch. I'll even get rid of this. So if I make this selection and I use the camera tool, and then wherever I click, I get a picture of that. So A1 to E9 is what's being covered. If I move it closer, still no issue. If I move it into A1 to E9, you can see part of it here. So this is like a mirror of that. And if I get on top of itself, I now have 3. And if I just jiggle it a little, I get another mirror, jiggle again and again. And if I get closer, so this is, I'm just adding a bunch of mirrors here. What I said is, these 8s look like a legitimate bunch of mirrors, but if I type in hello here, only the first mirror is picking that up. And why, I don't know. And if I just type in goodbye, the first mirror picks that up and the old mirror still holds on to it. So I don't have an explanation for why that works. But there's also a good function for, a good purpose for the camera tool using mirrors. Supposing I have this as my print range. I want to print that, but I also want to print this. If I were to print this, print preview this, I'm going to get 2 pages here. What I could do is I can use the camera tool with that selected and click on it down here. And then make this the print area. And now it's all together. I can get rid of the border as well if I just right mouse click, do Control 1 and under, let's see, line, no line. So now there's no line on it. And when I print preview, I have it all on 1 page instead of 2. So that's a great use for the camera tool. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Bob. There is one more question
Sure.
from Nigeria.
Okay.
They would like to know, is there any quick tool to arrange the sheet tabs in ascending order?
Ascending, you mean alphabetically?
Yeah, alphabetically, either on ascending or descending.
No, there's no quick way to do that. You have to write a macro to do that.
Okay.
If that's something you really need to do, feel free to email me and ask me to give you the code to do that, and I can do that for you.
Good. Do you recommend anything on ASAP in case if there's any macro? I mean, there are some power tools available. Anything on those recommendations, or you expect? You recommend people to write the code?
Do I expect people to do what? I'm sorry.
Is it good to write the VBA code, or any other tools do you also recommend?
Well, there's a bunch of tools. There's easy tools. You have to Google it, and it gives you a whole bunch of new tools available to you up in the a new item in the ribbon, which is lots and lots of different tools. But there's so many different tools. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's a very powerful one. You can just Google it and download it. It's very, very valuable. For the most, I don't use easy tools because there's so many there that I just wouldn't use them. But I write my own, obviously.
Good. As of now, only 2 questions, Bob. You can proceed. Anything in between, we'll let you know.
Okay. So let's see. Filling holes. I think we're up to here. Supposing I have a data that looks like this, and I have a state and a region, north and south, and I need to sort them by region within state. And this goes down a fair amount, in this case only row 99. But if I were to click on this and do data sort, and I'm sorting by state at a level and then by region, click OK, I just got a big mess, right? It would work if this was filled down with PA and this was filled down with WA. And I can select each one of these and do a fill down. And you see where there's a problem. And again, it's not a terrible problem. It only goes down to row 99, but then I have to do it again and make sure that's filled down. Well, there's a way to fill these blanks with just what you need. And I can do a go to F5 special. And I can go to all blanks. Click OK, and I have all that selected. So all the blanks are selected. Even now, the active cell, I'm not going to change anything here. The active cell is now B3. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put on an equal sign and hit the up arrow, which gives me a relative reference to the cell above. Control Enter solves the issue. It's not ready for sorting. If I go back to sort by state, add a level, sort by region. Okay, it's done. And if I wanted it to look like it did originally, I can go back to F5 and special and go to formulas. By the way, that's also on the home tab, find and select formulas, same thing. And then hit the delete key. And now the format is back to the way it was in the beginning. Now, if I happen to have other stuff on the worksheet somewhere, when I go here and do a go to special and go to blanks, I don't get what I want. I have all this junk. So first I make this selection, then go to special, and I'm going to the blanks in that selection. So that works. Okay, continue. I still have about 8-10 more minutes or so. I want this list to contain only unique values. You know, let's say it was employee number. If I put on a duplicate, I get unique values only. So to prevent that, there's a formula to use, which I'll demo here. I'm going to use equals count if takes a range. This is the range, and I'm going to lock that in. Control, oops. My F keys need help. So $A, $1. I don't need help. My F keys need help. $A, $1 through $A, $11. So that's the range, because I'm going to fill it down. And the criteria is just the cell to the left. When I drag this down, you see that this is telling me how many ones there are in here, how many twos are there, how many threes are there. There's only 1 3, so that's unique. So I want to make sure that the number of unique values in here is a 1. So what I did was I go to the data validation, and that's the formula. I'm allowing a custom item, so I can put in a formula. I'm saying the count if of all of column D for the active cell D2 is a 1. That's what I'm allowing. Otherwise, I come up with unique values only. Supposing I already have such a list and I want to apply that. So let's say I have existing list and I have these numbers, not so much. That was kind of arbitrary. And I want to apply that to this list. So I click on this, I do data validation, and the settings is a custom, and I'm saying equals count if, this is column F for F1. I use the active cell, equals 1. That's what I'm allowing. Click OK. It's allowing them because they were already there. I can't re-enter the same thing that's already there. I didn't put in a message, so this is Excel's message. And if this is a long list, how do I identify the bad ones? Well, under data validation, there's this drop down which says circle invalid data. And come on, it's usually a lot faster than this. Actually, it's usually pretty instant. And I don't know what it's doing now. Excel is not responding. If I lose this, I'll be back. Okay, there it is. It circled the invalid data. You can see it circled the duplicates and allows you to change them. If I change that to a 24, that disappeared. This one didn't. It thinks there's a duplicate. But if I re-enter it, it goes away. So it's a little buggy. These do not, I can't drag on them. They won't print. They won't show up in print preview. All you can do is look at them. When you're done, you can do clear validation circles. Okay, since we're running low on time, I'm gonna pick a good one. Conditional formatting. If you want to, I mean, here every other row is highlighted, is that. If I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, if I delete row 3, if I did not use conditional formatting, this would put a white row against a white row. And I'm going to delete this. Home, delete, row. Notice the 3 is gone, but the pattern is not. And to do that, I did conditional formatting with this rule. There's a function, edit the rule. The mod, which is the remainder when I divide the row that I'm in by 2. When I divide the row that I'm in by 2, I'm going to get, for row 1, I'm going to get a remainder of 1. 1 divided by 2 gives a 0 with a remainder of 1. So every other row will get this, whatever format I apply here. So I think my time is up. I was told 75 minutes.
Yes, Bob. There are a few questions from the
Great.
previous slide,
Okay.
previous slide, where you created that region-wise something. The question from Mr. Rajesh is that if we create a pivot table using this data for top 3 values, then we get only top 3 values considering the list. How do I get top 3 values by region-wise?
By region. So I'm trying to, did I have a particular tab that had region on it? Well, let's see, I'm going to find region. And under options, I go workbook. So I'm going to find next. It's searching the whole workbook for region. That's probably not the one we were talking about. Next. Here we go. So if I made a pivot table out of this, I'm assuming that this is what he wants. I'm going to insert a pivot table based on table 3. I'll put it on a new worksheet. And I put region here. And let's say I put amount, cell amount here. I can just click on it. Now he wants the top 3 regions. Is that the question?
Region-wise, top 3 customers. I mean, this is sorted by amount. Under each region, there will be some. Under each region, there will be some data. No?
Okay, so can I use this data and just take the top 3 items here? That'll do it.
But this will give the entire from the entire data top 3 regions. He wants under region top 3 items.
So that's, I think this
maybe,
is it.
Oh, okay.
So if I click on this and go to value field settings, and then, no, I'm sorry, that's not what I want. Right mouse click, show values as the top. I haven't done this in a while. Summarize values by, hold on, I'm sorry.
What he's asking is if you can drag customer name on rows, customer name.
Okay, drag it to here. Okay.
Now under each region, just wants top 3 customers.
Oh, and within each one of these, the top 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I remember how to do this. I know it can be done, but it's been a while. The top.
Can I It is there in the customer name drop-down, customer name drop-down.
Customer name here.
Drop-down, yeah, drop-down in that value filters. No, on the drop-down, there's a drop-down value filters.
Oh, yes. It's been a while. Okay, top.
Top.
And here I do top 3. Thank you. It's been a while. Click OK. There it is. Well, it's not the top 3 in each one.
Each one.
That's what he wants, the top 3 in each one.
Yeah. Okay. The next question, he has given a situation. May I explain the situation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So he has a list of donors which are from multiple sources pasted across various sheets. And he wants to spot them with a standard name and aggregate their donations, total donation. Do we need to do this on order to send them mail related to tax related papers? So he has some multiple sheets where the names are across various sheets. So example, the sheet one can have the name with some donation. Second sheet may also contain the same name. So he wants to aggregate across multiple sheets. Any suggestion do you want to?
Well, let me give you from what I'm understanding. I'm going to do it on a new workbook. I assume you can see this workbook or not? Can you see a new workbook?
No, yeah, I am still able to see only the pivot table.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share and then share again so you can see everything I'm looking at. Now, do you see a new workbook?
Yes, Bob.
Okay, so supposing on sheet 1 here, I have, I'll say Jan, Feb, and March. And let me actually insert something here. And I have item 1 and 2 and 3. And here I have some random data. Integer of a random data times 100. Okay, I'm going to copy paste special values. Okay, now I have sheet 2, which is similar. So I'm going to copy this just to get an example showing. I'm going to make this item 4 in the middle. And here I'm going to have April. And then I'm going to paste this again. Oops. All right. Copy and paste again. Last time it says item 24. I missed that. Make it item 4. And I have June. Totally random data here. Okay, if I want to summarize these, so I want something that refers to these. I'm going to summarize them in here with sheet 4, and I can use something called consolidation. So on data, consolidate. I'm going to use a sum function. The reference, I'm going to go here and select these. They can vary. I'm going to add that to this table. Go to sheet 2, the same range, add it to here, and go to sheet 3 and add it to here. I'm going to take the items in the top row on the left column. And for the first pass, I'm going to not click on this. Oh, I'll do that. Create a link to the source data. Click OK. And I now have this in sheet 4, which is I now have item 1, 2, 24, 4, and 3. And I have all the months that I have. I'm hoping that this is kind of what I was looking for. By creating a link to the source data, you see that this is a sum of D2 to D3. Let me go to level 2, and you see that all these have links to different sheets. But if I go back to 1, I have a summary of all these. I don't know if that's what he was wanting, but there it is.
That is what he has expected. He has responded on the YouTube chat.
Okay.
I think similar question another guest has asked, how can I combine payroll data of 12 tabs? This is the same answer I expect. I think this is the same answer.
Okay, but there's another way to do it. You can do it with a pivot table as well, because these are not pivot tables. But if I do /dv, /dv, I think it was V. Try it again. All right, maybe it's not. I have an old pivot table and pivot chart wizard in my QAT. It's an old style, and allows me to do multiple consolidation ranges, which is similar. I'll do it in the pivot table, and I'll let that be and leave that alone. And then there's a similar thing. So on sheet 1, this range, and then click add. And then I go to sheet 2, oops, sheet 2, back in here, sheet 2, drag across here and add. And finally, sheet 3 and add. And then I just click finish. And here's a pivot table with the same information.
Good, Bob. There is some regional question. I just want to check whether you will be able to answer. The regional question is from Mr. Tushar Kotari. He downloads the data from a system called Tally in India.
Okay.
While he downloads the data, each of the cell is been formatted with the extra characters called debit or credit. Each of the cell individually has been formatted. So his question, and it does not carry any sign, whether it's a positive number or negative number. So in each of the cell, there's extra custom formatting been done where this number is debit. So it has to be assumed it's positive number. And even the credit number is also been formatted as credit CR. So
something like this, 1, 2, 3 CR and 2, 3, 4 DB, like that.
But it is not. It is in the format, not in the cell data.
I don't understand that last thing.
Okay. When you written 123 CR, this CR is not in the cell, but it is there in the
it's in the format.
Custom format. So his question is, how can I extract whether this number is positive or negative, or debit or credit?
Okay, so let me see if I can format this custom. So CR and DR are not in here, right?
We can manually type it 0.00 double quotes.
But I know, but if if I make everything that, then everything will be the same size. Let's take I'll take a couple of these and make them DB, right?
Okay.
I'll do that.
This is typically in an Indian, one of the Indian ERP. When we download the trial balance, we get it in this format.
Okay, and the actual number in the cell is all positive?
Debit is positive, credit is negative, but all the things are presented in absolute value.
Okay.
So his challenge is, how do I identify this credit and put as a negative sign? One of our prior speakers has done it via VBA code. Is there anything other than VBA code?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is, but we're running out of time. And let me suggest that whoever's asking the question or anybody else, send me this question in an email and I'll work up the solution and send it back to you. I'm pretty sure you don't need VBA. And if you can include a file or a sample file that has the real information, that would be best.
Sure. Tushar, Tushar, if you can share the file or data, some sample data, we can share with the speaker and get a answer to your question. Okay, and good. Do you have any suggestion with regard to one of the guests has mentioned, Mr. Daniel? Any tips you have on Power Query? This is from Mr. Daniel.
No, I'm not a Power Query guy. I have used it a bit and I've played with it, but that's not my expertise.
Okay. Okay, Bob. A personal question from me. You have shared multiple tips across various platforms, across various countries. Which is the best tip according to you, and which has given you the most happiness or most time save activity? Any top 3 or top 2 or 3?
Well, what I would really recommend is, I don't know if I have a best. I would recommend buy this book. There's a lot of tips in here. Many of them I'm going through, but there's just so many. It depends on the situation. Like one that comes to mind is a multiple selection like this. If I put in something, Control Enter, That helps. Or if I have a rectangular selection, control period takes me around the corners. Successive control period. I've used that a lot to get me to someplace. If I'm here and then shift down arrow, let's say this was titles, the first one, and I have this, and I don't want to include the titles in the selection, and it goes way down to 5,000. I do control period twice, and then shift down arrow takes the titles. But I don't really know if I have a single favorite.
Okay.
So sorry.
No
Again,
issues.
here's my email. Feel free to send me any questions.
Sure,
And
sure, Bob.
my personal time is up. I have something else I need to attend to. I want to thank you for asking me to participate.
Personally, thank you, Bob, for being on this particular platform and sharing your rich experience of spreading across 3-4 decades. Most of our guests have been benefited from your experience. I wholeheartedly thank you once again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the valuable session. And on behalf of Excel and Excel, I really thank you for taking time in spite of the schedule and in spite of the time difference. Thank you for taking time and being here with us, sir. It really means a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
An announcement for all regarding our upcoming Fresh Talks. On 26th Feb, we have a session on Excel Data Analysis Tool Park by Mr. Prinjal Egbe, who is a Managing Director at Pegasus Global Limited. And on 5th March, we have a session on extending the Power Query joins by simulating fuzzy matching by Mr. Gasper Kaminsik, who is also an Excel MVP and a lead author at excelunplugged.com. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you in our next session. Hope this session was useful. Do subscribe to our channel for instant updates. Stay tuned for more Fresh Talk. Have a happy weekend, and thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this session.
Team, can you please help us with the download materials? When can we get